Lou Elizondo talks about the shapes of the different sorts of UFOs and what their various features are. This is fascinating. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. Please hit like, please subscribe, and smash the bell to be notified of future videos. Join me on social media. There's links below for Facebook and Twitter. And please consider becoming a channel member to support the channel to help me make the best videos I know how. You can do that in the first line of the description below. Okay, moving on with the story. I love Lou, and I always listen to what he has to say, and this was particularly fascinating, where he sat down with Kurt from Theories of Everything, and it was a very long interview that I watched it, a few months ago when it came out, but this didn't really hit home until I just saw it on Twitch, and, then I remembered this particular very short segment of the conversation that he had with Kurt. And, I was reminded of its significance. So, I'll talk about it, but here they are.
Is there a correlation between any of the characteristics of these UAPs, UFOs, and some other characteristic? For example, let's say that the tic-tac shaped ones are more violent or the pyramidal shaped ones are faster. Is there a classification of them, and do they have some other characteristic associated with them?
What we tend to see are the smaller vehicles tend to be, think of a sports car, are your saucer-shaped vehicles. Whereas the larger vehicles, let's say a school bus size, is that of a cylindrical object, or roughly that of a tic-tac, or even sometimes described as a telephone pole. And then in shape, so cylindrical. And then the tend to be the large ones, really large ones, tend to be not always, but almost exclusively either triangular shape or boomerang shape.
Isn't that fascinating? So we've got different sorts of UFOs behaving differently in different sizes, behaving differently. I wish that he had addressed Kurt's original question, which was, do they display different characteristics in the sense of, are some more violent than others? In other words, do they interact with humans differently depending on what shape and size they are? I don't know if that was a skillful dodge by Lou, or if this was just the best information that he had pertaining to the question. Either way, it's super interesting. And it's also interesting that he describes the saucers as being the smallest of the shapes, and he describes tic-tacs as actually being larger. Now, the tic-tacs that he's describing, he lumps in the same category as the lenticular or, cigar-shaped craft, which do tend to be significantly larger. However, the famous tic-tac, where the term originally came from, that we're all familiar with, was, of course, the Nimitz incident, where the tic-tacs were, not much bigger than the actual fighter planes themselves. So I don't think that he's referring to that actual tic-tac. I think he's referring to the larger, more oblong-shaped, craft, in the same general realm and size as the cigar-shaped craft, which are, significantly larger. He uses the word school bus size, but some of them are much larger than that. So I think that's what he's referring to. And, of course, there are categories of ships that are smaller than the tic-tac, that are much smaller. The tiny little orbs, for example. So, yeah. So, I wish that he would, that somebody would present that question to him again and let him refine that answer. But as it is, it's still fascinating. So the saucers are, he compares them to a sports car. So that tends to indicate that they would be faster, which is really interesting because it brings up the question of what sort of laws of physics are these things breaking or potentially not breaking. Using quantum mechanics, there's some wiggle room there in bending time and space. So, you could say that these things are not actually breaking the laws of physics as we understand them, because they can subvert them by bending time and space, and that relative to them, to the ships, the craft, they are actually not moving faster than the speed of light, say, or whatever. fast enough just within our atmosphere to pulverize any human occupants. It's possible that if there is a field around that craft and that's making them outside of our stream of time by warping space and time, that they can go move in such a way where to them they're moving at a reasonable speed that would not kill them, but to us they're moving supersonic. So just a possibility. They could also be breaking the laws of physics as we understand them, because they have a completely different model of physics, and I would imagine that they do. But it could also be both. So the idea that the smaller craft are moving faster and more maneuverable like a sports car, that is something that we would expect of our own craft. Using the physics that we know and understand, of course, smaller craft are going to be more maneuverable. A fighter jet is eminently more maneuverable than a 747. So, that is very interesting. Does that mean that their understanding of physics is actually more relatable to ours than we might suppose? I don't know, but that is, where that line of logic goes. Or at least that's how I see it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Many people that are abductees or contactees describe themselves as being taken up into a saucer-shaped vehicle, and sometimes they are then taken somewhere else. The saucer-shaped vehicle seems to be a temporary mode of transport, an interim mode, if you will, between various other destinations. Sometimes they're taken aboard a larger ship, possibly a lenticular or large tic-tac shaped vehicle, or even the largest shape, as Lou says, they are the triangles. Some people seem to be taken underground, or even to another level of existence. The famous quantum computer guru Deep Prasad says he was taken to what he perceived as a deeper level of reality when he was taken. And he is not the only person that has said such things. Is that a higher dimension or density, or is that completely outside of our reality at all? And of course, we have to mention the triangles. Many people have seen triangular shaped ships over the years, but those aren't the super big ones that they're talking about usually. They're usually talking about, more of the mid-range in size vehicles. And many people over the years have ascribed those sightings to actual government craft, secret black triangle craft. That's actually, a very well-known phenomenon. I have no doubt the government has stuff. They've got stuff. They've been working on this stuff for a long time. Of course, they have stuff. And I'm sure some of that stuff is responsible for some of the sightings that people encounter. But that doesn't explain the giant craft, I don't think. We're talking the Phoenix Lights here. That kind of level of massive, mile-wide or wider craft. If that was a secret government project, it probably would not have flown over Phoenix. That was a non-human vehicle of some sort, inhabited by who knows who. I've heard various explanations from experiencers over the years. One person says one race flew it, another says a different race flew it, which is common and frustrating. So it was, I think it was the night of the Halley-Bob comet. It was a multi-night event, and it's more complicated, the Phoenix Lights, because in one night, the military actually did drop flares, because afterward they tried to blame the whole thing on flares, and there were actually some flares on one of those nights. But it was a multi-night event. The big one was seen by many thousands of people. I think that was the night of the Halley-Bob comet, and people were looking up in the sky, and that's when this thing came in very deliberately. It waited until people were looking up into the night sky, and then it showed itself. Not a coincidence, in my opinion. I don't see how that could possibly be a coincidence. However, if they really, really wanted to, disclose themselves or reveal themselves, they could have done it in daytime. So they were kind of hedging their bets, which is interesting. They wanted people to notice them, but they also wanted, people to be able to deny it. So, they're trying to elevate people's consciousness a little bit, but not all the way. So, thank you for trying, guys. It did make a dent in the conversation. It did provide a really great sighting that people can talk about and point to. And there's video and pictures and some really credible witnesses and some famous ones. Kurt Russell was there. Yeah. Anyway, so that is one example of these giant triangular craft that Lou is talking about. It's also interesting that Lou has in the past talked about how a small craft, he compares it to like a point or a circle. And he says it's interesting, when you examine like dimensional physics and stuff. So if you get the two circles and you combine them, you get a line, which would be the lenticular craft or the cigar-shaped craft. So he's saying that it's possible that two of the smaller craft can form one of the middle craft through some crazy physics. And then another one can come and they can form a triangle, one of the massive craft. So if that's true, that is just mind-boggling. But that is what he has said. I would love it if I had that interview on hand to share with you. If any of you know that particular interview, please give me a link in the comments below. That'd be awesome. Anyway, so I just thought this was really fascinating. I wanted to bring it to your attention. Lou Elizondo talking about the differences between the craft and their different features. He didn't go into a lot of detail about it. It was a very short segment of that conversation, which is why it took me seeing this video again to cement it in my brain. It takes some work sometimes. But anyway, a really, really fascinating little tidbit. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Please smash the subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. Please join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. And please, if you enjoy these videos, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. See the first line in the description below, and there's 2 tiers of membership to receive exclusive access and videos. Until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road.